Hello, this is Bodbru and Arne Pulze. Today I'd like to talk to you about close first picks in Kaladesh, so regarding uncommons and commons. So in those cases when your rare or mythic is not really all that great, so then you're turning to uncommons and commons. And I'm gonna talk to you close first picks, top 5 picks, meaning pick from 1 to 5, potentially very obvious first picks. Of course, sometimes depending on what pack is that. If it's first pack, then it's probably a very easy first pick, although preference may vary, of course. And then I'll also show you a quick capture of what I think might be the best type of deck for a two-headed giant, which is also a format for this perilous, for people who enjoy playing with friends more. So what do we see here? Basically, the Brazen Scourge. It's a 3-mana free haste for free with double red in its cost. Of course, it's not Ram Gang from the past. I imagine that was Shadowmoor. It was red green triple hybrid cost card, also free haste, but it also had Weaver. So if it would, let's say, be blocked by a 6/6, the Ramgan would leave 3 minus counters on that creature, which was insane. Now, I'm not saying the Scourge is actually obvious first pick, but it's close. It's in the top 5, I would say. And yeah, you can tap your creatures to crew up the vehicles very quickly. Um, so it doesn't matter if they have Summon and Sickness or not. You can still do that. But the thing is that the Scourge really fits into archetype of all that red beatdown mass in the set. So you can have that, you can have hasty hasty vehicles, the red Helion as well. So you could build a pretty aggressive hasty red deck in limited. That's what I'm saying. The model is pretty sick because in constructed you can do pretty funny combos with it if you have three copies of them. In limited that's going to be rare, but I think it's still going to be possible to have 3 copies of the model, because there are so many cards in this set that when come into play give you 3 energy or 2 energy or something like that, and then it's a cheap artifact, and then it actually has a second ability as well, so which is somewhat relevant. At the very least it saves your creature from removal. Then Chief of the Foundry was pretty sick in Origins, and yeah, limited archetype defining in Origins. You had so many cards that produce top tiers. In this set, it's not top tiers, it's servos, but even though they don't have flying, but they're still artifact creatures. So Chief is pretty high on my list for picking in the draft, and just as a power level in this set in general. The Barge, well, okay, it's 4 mana. It has crew free, but then again, you get a 5/5, and you also get to draw a card as well. And then there are ways to actually bounce your permanents or just blink them. So that's first ability is actually pretty relevant. Then the Stomper. Okay, it wants to be crewed up by crew 5. So that's a lot of power to use it to animate it, but then again you get a creature that is gonna win in 2 turns, and it's gonna be very hard to block. The Sky Whale, okay, I think we've seen similar cards. I think it's a functional reprint. Anyways, 4 power flyer for 4 is pretty sick, and it's a single color, so even though it's a double blue cost, but it's easy to pick it very quickly. China's Spire Helix is essentially fire, the one half of the split cards from Invasion block. Um, which is pretty relevant. We don't see a huge amount, but still some amount of chip removal in this set. What is important is that it can obviously hit face and it can hit creatures as well. And in the set full of servos, those 1/1 tokens, actually having this ability to do 2 damage to tokens is actually pretty relevant. Nature's Way. So, okay, it's sorcery. It costs 2 mana, but it's not exactly prey upon, and then, in the sense that the creatures don't fight. Your creature just deals damage to theirs according to the power, and then you get Vigilance and Trample, so, which I think make this card potentially constructed playable as well, because it's a removal that's actually makes combat much better for you as well. It doesn't pump the creature, but that would be a lot to ask, I think. So really gonna be watching out for this card in limited and even in standard, because it just turns things around. Your creature becomes very hard to block because of trample, so it's hard to chump block it. You will kill a creature of opponent in the process, and then that same creature they're attacking with is going to be able to block next turn. It's just so much to overcome, I feel like, and just for 2 mana. Yeah, like this card does nothing if you have nothing on board, but a lot of cards don't do that, and of course you're not gonna put it into a control deck, and not into every mid-range deck as well, in either limited or standard. So it's for quick beatdown decks, so remember that. So maybe if your deck is not that fast, maybe it's best to not play this card in limited, let's say, or in constructed, and then just put direct removal instead of things like that. But if you're, let's say, like mono green, which I think will be hard to imagine in either format, then yeah, like your options are very limited. So these are another close first picks. I really like the Judge. I actually like it quite a lot in constructed as well, together with this enchantment too, because they're relatively cheap and the impact is pretty huge, I feel like. So they're obviously like pretty interesting in limited, thanks to Fabricate, and also thanks to a bunch of sweet bonuses your creatures get, or you get if you have creatures with counters. But think about both of those cards in maybe next version of green-white tokens. Particularly, so this enchantment fits the Judge, and then the Judge can be fed by the Auto Gatewatch Nissa, the 3-mana one, that has one of her abilities distributing the counters on your whole team. So let's say you find an interesting 1-drop, which is unlikely for green-white tokens, but maybe the deck will play a 1-drop. Outside of just having Oath of Nissa as the one turn play. But still, even if it's 2-drop into Nissa making a plant, into Nissa maybe putting a couple of counters on those creatures, and then you cast this Judge, you're still drawing 2 cards. If you hold on this, or have just a more explosive start, or just wait a bit more to establish a better board position, then you draw even more cards. It's probably not going to be a 4-off, like probably at max like a 2-off, or even just a 1-off. But it's going to give a huge boost to the deck in terms of just drawing and so on. Don't mind the coffee maker on the background. Handicraft. So, well, I really like that it has the second ability. So when you don't really have much mana or time to dawdle around and put single counters on your creatures. You can just hit the sub for 6 and just spread the love in one turn for everybody, and just push for lethal, or signify little lethal damage. Aether Meltdown, probably one of the best uncommons in the set, I feel like, especially for blue. It's essentially an instant. It costs 2. It can target a creature or a vehicle, which is offline. You get 2 energy counters, and you make that permanent -4, -0. It's a pretty good deal, I feel like. The Bruiser, the black 2-drop, is maybe not super exciting, but I feel like he's just a great 2-drop. Probably not actually close first, but probably in top 5 of the picks you will do in every pack. Yeah, it can't block, which is a huge bummer, so but you're just gonna play it in an aggressive deck. And I think Menace is pretty huge because you have a lot of cheap tricks in black and red, and then yeah, a lot of the time it will be basically unblockable, which I think is a huge deal. Sabotage underneath it, well, I don't feel like it's gonna be a constructed card. You have to sack your next effect, but it's instant and it's free damage for everything. So I don't know. Let's see. Definitely gonna be crazy in limited. So you have to basically watch out for this card. I feel like it's one of the big ones to be aware of. If you see, like, they have double red, they have an artifact in play, they have 4 mana available. Really watch out for that. If actually they don't have many creatures on board, or don't mind like dealing free to everything. Negotiation is crazy because you can just give them a 1/1 servo token and basically nuke off their Hulk or big vehicle or something like that. So that's why I feel like it's pretty crazy card, especially for limited. The constructed, I don't know, depends. Probably a good card if you're a blue-red vehicle stack. So this card's gonna break the mirror together with the 6 mana rare, the blue one. Angel is gonna be pretty sick and limited, I feel like. It's a 4/4 flyer for 6, which is okay to start with. And then you get to reload a bunch of fabricate creatures, a bunch of creatures that bring you energy counters when they come in. It can even flicker this next card to Wild Winder, basically rampant growth on a decent stick, so just get you like the missing color if you're like multicolor, weird, limited control deck. But most of the time it will be just blinking for value. The best scenario is to blink this new Mold Drifter, the blue-white creature that when it comes in gains you 2 and gains you 2 life, and you draw 2 cards. Moving on. So these are the obvious first picks, I think, if your rare sucks. So the responder is not exactly like Nighthawk, but it's still pretty crazy. Just one keyword away from Nighthawk, and it's a white card, and Nighthawk was crazy to start with, so yeah. Vigilance is still like pretty relevant, I feel like, especially in limited. Marauder is pretty sick. Okay, it's a build around card, but because the effect is pretty powerful, and you have Fabricate, and you have other ways to put counters on creatures. Yeah, I think it's a strong pick, especially pack 1, pick 1, when you can draft or build around, and especially in sealed, where if you either have it or not, I mean, necessarily pull to support cards like this. Familiar is gonna go like to almost every deck, I feel like. At the very least, it's just ogre that throws you a card, so which is not that bad, I feel like, even for aggro decks. But if you want to go real aggro and your curve is really tight, then this card might not make the cut. But because we'll see this card in standard, and for any limited deck that is not insanely aggressive, it's gonna be there. And this is just this very safe first pick. Just can go like to almost every deck. Um, Harness Lightning. Well, your Lightning Strike for this set. So the good part is that while it cannot hit face, it can often hit the creature for more than just 3 damage if you have spare energy. Fairgrounds Warden is just a Fiend Hunter, basically, or Banishing Priest, rather, I would say, if you look at the fixed wording on the card. So yeah, it's just a 3 mana, 1/3 guy that hides away a creature underneath itself and releases it from the arrest after it leaves the battlefield. So it's not just about when it dies. So if you blink it with the angel or something else, then like, okay, you will be able to hide away the same creature once again, but maybe the creature you hid away has comes into playability, comes enter the battlefield, whatever. Yeah, like this way you can maybe just target something else if the creature was small and it's not relevant anymore, and you would rather get rid of something else that's bigger and like has flying, for example. Console Shield Guard, well, 3/4 for 4, which is already great. Enters, gives you 2 counters, pretty good, and then you can use them for at least 2 times and give another attacking creature you got indestructible. So let's say you have a big trampler or something like that, or they have flyers, you have a flyer you want to connect with, you can give that indestructible. It cannot give itself indestructible, which is a bummer, of course, but yeah, overall still pretty sick card, I feel like. Founder Inspector, well, there are so many artifacts and artifact creatures in the set, and so on, and free of any mana for a 3/2 is not the worst. So yeah, even if like you're not gonna have that many artifacts, it's still a pretty solid card to bash face with. Stumper is just great. It's not as great for Constructed, for example, though I won't be surprised because we don't really see a big alternative for such cards in Standard right now after rotation. So who knows? But I won't be surprised if it wouldn't see play. But for Limited, it's pretty crazy. 5/4 trample gains you 5. Well, why not? Plus, you get a lot of ways to blink or return creatures to your hand. So there is that. Then these are the obvious first picks. I feel like pretty much all the gold cards or multicolor cards are quite easy first pickable if you don't have a good rare in the pack. And yeah, Virtuoso basically grants you that you have a 2/3 and a 1/1 flyer, which is sick. Brawlers, it's crazy. So it gets you energy, and then for 2 turns you get a 4/3 trampler. Gearsmith is just very big upgrades on the Gravedigger kind of card, because it can return back an artifact, for example, so it can bring back vehicles. And it's a 3/3 instead of a 2/2. Of course, it's 2 colors, but well, you pay the price in some way. So Veteran Meteorist is pretty sick for color pie, as one of my teammates noted. You have the red-white creature that actually scries when it enters, with, and scries for 2 even. So and it's just you, unlike some artifact creature in this set. And like when it crews a vehicle, it boosts it. So yeah, I feel like this card is actually, if somebody's gonna build the red-white version of the vehicles, this will be in that standard deck. But although you can splash all kinds of colors into that vehicle's deck in standard, but blue red is probably like my best, my favorite, just because of that artifact autographs. Anyways, so while disintegration will be all over standard, it's also like very obvious first pick in case of a bad rare. And yeah, like this gives an incentive to splash black into your standard vehicle deck. Cloud Blazer, yeah, just overall great, but yeah, watch out. So if you want to play this card and you want to like really abuse it, that means your deck's gonna be pretty slow. So make sure in sealed or in draft to pick a good amount of 2 and 3 drops and some cheap removals or tricks so that you can actually survive till you cast your Cloud Blazers and stuff like this. Engineered Might, well, it's a sorcerer, which is a big bummer, but then again, it's flexible, and then, well, it can be an overrun, so it's probably like one of the weaker ones of all the multicolor cards, but because how flexible it is, and while each of the effects are actually less powerful than expected for this cost, I think it's still a great card, and because of all the token generators, the overrun kind of ability is kind of pretty relevant. Just helps it to push the damage through. Of course, if it will be choose one or both, the card will be insane. I think it's still like pretty decent. Okay, maybe not obvious first pick, the more I think about it, but it's definitely not, probably not gonna be in the pack after pick 5, I feel like. Voyager is pretty sick. You get a flying trample 2 free body for free mana, it's pretty crazy, and then you get a bunch of energy counters as well when it hits. And it's not just you get to 1 energy every time you connect, it's like that many energy counters, which is really sick, so you get at least 2, and if you like pump it somehow, that this card becomes really bananas in for limited. Okay, this is how I picture insane 2-headed giant deck. So you could have instant mass removal for all the creatures, you could have a small mass removal for only their stuff, you could have a bunch of crazy cards that say each opponent. So Fireweaver artifact enters on your side, ping 1, which essentially in 2-headed means ping 2. Same for Infiltrator, becomes tapped, pings 2 to their team. Lookout and Infiltrator actually have a hidden gem, so you can just use them to crew up some vehicles so that you get to tap them every turn, for instance, because you don't have to attack with that vehicle, for example. So if it's the stalemate and the ground is clogged, so you can just keep on like tapping your guys like Infiltrator and this Lookout, just to crew up your vehicles and just not attack with the vehicles if you feel like your vehicles probably won't survive. So you can do that, and like each time you deal 2 damage. In case you off Lookout, you get to drain them for 2, so you also gain some life. Same for the designs, disenchantments. So yeah, you will have to play a lot of artifacts in this deck to make it work for sure. Because you'll need artifacts for the Fireweaver, for the Sabotage, for disenchantment, for disintegration, probably for the lightning as well to make more energy. But yeah, designs not only can be like a win condition, it's also removal if you really need to. And then you have like cheap removals from the uncommons, of course. So pretty sick. I hope somebody makes this and just like kicks ass the entire time at the 2-headed giant preludes. Right, a few of the like top 5 picks, I mean picks from 1 to 5, depending on your pack. Okay, I had a few repeats on these 3 slides, including disenchantments, but oh well. We talked about that. I think the land's gonna be picked pretty high, because not only it's just another source of energy, but it's also a color fix, of which are not very many in the set. So um, it's pretty hard to go 3 colors in sealed and and in draft. So the red puzzle node is probably my favorite one of all puzzle nodes. I think they're all like more or less playable because you just need artifacts in most of the decks to activate a bunch of different things. But puzzle node is great because it pings away those tokens, kind of cleans the path for other creatures to get through for damage. The black one is also pretty good because cantripping is quite nice. I don't know like which one is ultimately better overall. I think they're both great. Puzzle Knot is just safe, but I think black one is pretty close as well because it has the same like cost. Well, they all have the same cost and the same type of ability, but black one just lets you draw a card of because you lose 1 life each for each of those abilities. But oh well. Glimmer Genius, well, okay, it costs 4, but it's an instant. It lets you scry 2, which is great. It lets you draw 2, which is great, and then gives you like 2 energy counters, which is the currency for this set, so you do a whole bunch of different stuff with the energy counters. Herald is just decent. Like, probably it's just a very solid and smooth pick 5 in the pack, let's say that. So you get a 3/2 body that pumps a body, so for 3 mana as a common with a single white in its cost. Timing, functional reprints, so yeah, just good removal. Depending on the pack and your preferences, might be even first pickable in some rare cases, I believe. Larger than life, well, it's not an instance, but the trample thing like makes it okay. Yeah, just a big bump and gives trample. Okay, it's sorcery, but there had to be some balance. So yeah, really like it, and it's really foreseeing a red-green beatdown in standard with cards like that. Cub is decent, might be as a stretch like constructed playable, like that reach snake incarnation of Wild Mongrel from the Eldritchman. Well, you get 2 counters every time you connect with this thing, which is crazy. So don't just think about it in the sense of just how you pump this thing and how big it can become and how easy it would be to get through. Just think about the fact that if they miss on the 2-drop, you get 2 energy counters with the first attack, and then let's say you hit your removal or a pump during your next combat if they hit a 2-drop or a 3-drop. So yeah, you get 2 counters again. It's sick. At least for limited. But for constructed, it's like that less amazing, of course, but still pretty okay. Okay, another one. So yeah, I have the black puzzle knot here, together with the prism, which cycles also costs 2, and fixes your colors. I think it's just great. Also, you have the blue counter spell that bounces a permanent, so you can draw again. Stuff like this. Door Buster is just sick. 4/2 for 4 is fine. Then it gets you 2 counters. Then you can make like target creature can block this turn. So that means that you can help your vehicles to get through. So it's not like you make your vehicle unblockable for that turn, but some big body of theirs can't block this turn, so to eat your vehicle, which is relevant. Right, Minister, well, okay, like, there's probably no dedicated mill deck in this format, but it's just a 1-drop that can help you crew up your stuff and gives you 2 energies, so look at that first of all, and then the mill ability, which might be relevant, but then again, you're probably like a mid-rangey controller's deck. But in blue-reds, this is quite achievable, just being some tempo deck, and yeah. The Bridge Patrol, well, I think it's a pretty sick card, and I think there was a card like that before. Let me see. I think it, I think it was the old Innistrad. We had a creature like that, so it's a functional reprint, and everybody quickly learned that this card was pretty nuts and growing pretty fast and getting out of control very quickly. And on this set, you have a bunch of token generators, which is helping this a lot. So, and there are a bunch of like good 1 and 2 drops actually, um, which is kind of rare for a lot of limited sets. So there's that. Privileges, it's a pacifism that also prevents their creatures to be used for crewing up stuff, which is great. So one of the best, I guess, white commons. Genius, well, it's pretty great. You get a free 2 for free, which is okay, and then you get to loot every time an artifact hits the battlefield. It also triggers off the Fabricate when you make the 1/1s, so there is that. So it's gonna trigger more time than you think. And then you have the Ornamental Courage. Well, the boost is not that big, but the toughness boost is okay. And then that's all for 1 mana, and you get to untap some creatures, so I kinda look at it as a 1 mana removal, sort of. Okay, and last one. So, Rush of Vitality, because it's 2 mana, and a lot of limited environments, we learned that a card like this can actually be quite busted. So, what it means is that in instant spits, you save your creature, you pump it slightly, and you give it also lifelink, so you're gonna gain a good chunk of life as well. So that combined is pretty crazy. So you save your creature, you basically eat their creature, and you gain a bunch of life, and all of that for 2 mana. Of course it's situational, and it needs some setup, but it's 2 mana common, so think about it. Sage is pretty good, because, okay, you get a 2/1 for 2, which is not super exciting, but you get 3 freaking energy counters, and that's a common, so yeah, I feel like it's quite decent. It's not like your first pick, but you're gonna pick it pretty high. So the gremlins are just insane, at least unlimited. So it's not just like when you cast, it's like when it hits play, so that means all the Fabricate and tokens and stuff. And even if it's just 1 per turn, it makes this guy for free trample for 3 mana. Just think about it. If it's 2, and a lot of the Fabricate creatures have 2, so that means you can choose to put 2 1/1 artifact guys into play, and this becomes a 6/3 trampler for free. And it's a freaking common in red. It's busted. Servant is great. Even though it's not a straight mana dork, but you get a grizzly bear that does 2 things. Like, it can just give you energy counters, and then you can use those counters to get like any mana. And because there are so many ways to get energy counters in this set, so yeah, it's almost like a 2 mana 2/2 mana dork. This guy's give, well, probably one of the least exciting vehicles of the set, but it's still pretty decent because how cheap it is itself and how easy to crew it up, etc. It just takes 1 Fabricate token to animate it. The Sky Whale shot is pretty great. So compare it to the removal, which was a big thing before. I'm not sure exactly. I think it was Ferrous. Just a 2 mana instant, kill a creature with power 4 creature. Now you can kill something that is just power 3, and you also get to scry, and all of that just for 1 extra mana, which is probably quite okay, I feel like. Snare Topter, well, think about it. It means any mana, and it's an artifact. Okay, it means kinda that it will be easier to kill, but think about it. Any mana, free to Flying Haste. So let's say it will be not an artifact, and let's say it will cost something like 3 and the red. Would you play a creature that is like 3 in the red and 3 to Flying Haste? Would you play it? Probably you will. And you probably will play this one, even though there are more ways to kill it, because it's like goes to any deck, right? Subtle Strike is crazy, and it's crazy that it costs just 2 mana and not 3, and you can choose both, and then it's crazy. So sorry, I can't emphasize that enough, because it can be an easy 2-for-1, or sometimes even a I don't know, a better exchange. So it's gonna be very often a 2-for-1. I feel like it's gonna be pretty hard to make it better than that, but 2-for-1 removal for 2 mana at instant speed, why not? Of course, like, you will need to have some bodies on board, but still, I feel like it's pretty sick. Anyways, Building Sparks, well, at minimum it hits 3 to a creature, which for common for 3 mana at instant speed is quite okay. But it, on average, it will be about 4, which is quite good, I think, for a common, for an instant common at 3 mana. For a limited. Probably not a constructed card, but oh well. And then there was Wandering again, which some people might think that on turn 4 you don't really need that ramping, but well, you get a decent body, and you just fixing your colors, which is okay. Maybe I overestimate this card, but we'll see. Okay guys, thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, check the social media links at the top cap of the channel. So yeah, next up will be a bunch of sample deck lists from me for new standards. So stay tuned folks, and until the next sale, goodbye.